What's going on, guys? I hope everybody's having a great day. I know I sure am. You can make my day even better, though. All you have to do is click that like button. Just click on it, turn it blue, you'll make my day. Also, if you enjoy the content, if you want to see more, if you hate my content but you can't help but hate watch, consider subscribing to the channel. It's a great way to support content creators. It doesn't cost you a dime. I'll never ask you for money, but I will ask you to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. YouTube will let you know anytime I post after that, and we'll be off to the races. So let's get into the case. So Bryan Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, has introduced a conflict of interest into the case already. We haven't even made it to a hearing yet, and we've got this big of a conflict of interest. What is it, you might ask? Well, you've got a public defender representing Bryan Kohberger. But before Bryan Kohberger came along, you had that same public defender representing Cara Kernodle. Who's Cara Kernodle? Xana Kernodle's mother, one of the victims that Bryan is accused of murdering on November 13th. 6 days after that, Cara Kernodle was arrested for trafficking heroin. She was assigned Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor and her are not strangers. Her and Ann Taylor have worked together on 3 previous cases. So Ann Taylor knew who Cara Kernodle was. She knew that Xana Kernodle was probably related to Cara, ends up being her daughter. But then she still accepts the Bryan Kohberger case and still accepts him as her client. Here's the issue. There's a lot of reasons why she would accept Bryan Kohberger as her client, right? Rationally, because it's a huge mainstream case. Everybody's gonna see it. Of course, right? But if she could pull the rabbit out the hat and she could get Bryan Kohberger off on this case, then obviously it would help her career like unmeasurably, right? She would no longer have to be a public defender. Let's put it like that. She would be able to go into private practice and stay pretty busy. I mean, if you can get somebody like Bryan Kohberger off with all the evidence they have against him, then it's going to look good for you. And obviously she believes she can. She's been making waves ever since he got to Idaho, and she stopped the cleanup on the crime scene in its tracks. Now, obviously, the conflict of interest is going to come up in court. You have a little thing called attorney-client privilege. So, with her working with Cara, she knows some things that the court system doesn't know about Cara, right? And she's defended Cara in these cases. She can't violate attorney-client privileges. So if she has to cross-examine Cara and she gets lied to, and she knows that she's being lied to, what is she supposed to do? Because then she's not giving Bryan Kohberger adequate defense, right? But if she goes and she pushes Cara for those answers, then she's violating attorney-client privileges. Conflict of interest. It can't happen that way. Now, normally, in a case like this, if you have one client, and then they try to offer you a new client who would be a conflict of interest, you turn down the new client. But Ann Taylor couldn't do that because, hey, this is her meal ticket, right? So instead, she takes Bryan Kohberger on, and then on January the 5th, she drops Cara.
This is something, Chris, in 28 years of federal law enforcement, I've never seen. When a public defender has a conflict, they do not accept the next case that is the conflicted case. You would never get rid of the defendant that you had been representing for a great period of time on 4 different cases to take over another case.
Now, Cara will still have to sign a waiver for Ann to be able to represent Bryan Kohberger.
First of all, you're going to have a knowing waiver by both the mother, who was represented, and by the current client, Bryan.
If Cara signs that waiver, I've got some questions. Because let's just be real here. If somebody's accused of murdering your child, and you love your child, would you do anything that would help them out? No. There's no chance. I'm not signing over anything that's going to give any benefit to the person accused of murdering my child. Not that we would have to go to court over that anyway. But I'm not going to do anything to help that person out. I'm definitely not going to give them a lawyer who stands a good chance at winning a case, now am I? Hell no. I'm going to fight that tooth and nail. But if Cara did sign the waiver, what does that mean?
If she got a waiver already from the mother, if the mother said, that's fine, I understand, you got to do what you got to do because there's a limited number of lawyers in Idaho who have death penalty experience, then I suppose that they've already submitted a waiver or they've got it.
Obviously, all the internet rumors are going to fly off the handle with this. You've got Cara arrested for trafficking heroin. You've got all the internet rumors already that associate drugs with this case, that associate the house as a drug house, a party house. Maybe they were dealing drugs. You've got the 8-hour gap between the time that Dylan saw Bryan in the house, allegedly, and then calling 911 8.5 hours later. So, obviously, that's an issue. Then you throw in the cherry on top that Bryan Kohberger is a criminology student. He's got a master's degree in criminal justice, and he's an ex-heroin addict himself. Things start to get a little hairy, right?
I can also predict what they will say if there's a conviction. They're going to say, well, you represented her on a drug case. There's been rumors on the internet about this house being connected, where the murder scene was, connected to drugs and raging parties. You didn't go down that road because you were conflicted because of your previous representation, blah, blah, blah. You didn't do a cross-examination, and that's the nub of the conflict.
What I do know is that this is going to be a problem. If Ann Taylor is allowed to continue to represent Bryan Kohberger, that's obviously a conflict of interest, and if Bryan is found guilty, you can bet your ass this is going to be brought up afterwards in the appeal.
Because, boy, if there is a conviction, the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a 2255 for IAC, ineffective assistance of counsel, and this is going to be one of the many instances of ineffective assistance, that there was a conflict.
If she's not allowed to represent him, then who is? Who is the new attorney going to be? Is that fair for Bryan, that he's going to have lesser representation if somebody else doesn't have the same qualities and qualifiers as Ann Taylor? These are good questions. I don't know the answers to them. I do know that it's not normal for a lawyer to drop one client in order to represent another client without there being a conflict of interest in the case. What do you guys think about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to see more. Hit that notification bell so you get notified anytime I post. Have a great day, and we'll see you later.